Cool stuff happening on this episode of Finnegan's Garage. First, we're going to work on J-Lo. We are going to finally start hopping up the engine of my 2006 Chevrolet 3500 pickup, which, as you know, if you've watched previous episodes, has a LBZ version of the Duramax engine and an Allison 6-speed transmission behind it. Now, the engine itself is bone stock. We do have an Edge Evolution programmer already attached to it. That thing's been plugged into the OBD2 port since the day I bought this truck. And it already has a MagnaFlow exhaust system that comes off the downpipe out the back of the truck with just a muffler and straight pipe. There's nothing else on there. And today, we're going to put on a new air intake from Edge called the Jammer. It's a quote-unquote cold air intake system. We'll see if that actually makes colder air going into the turbo, and, if you care, brand new FSM t-shirt. This is the Stealth shirt. It's black on black. In the right light, you can see the FSM logo on the front and the back. Everywhere else, you're in stealth mode. This can be your going out shirt for when your chick wants you to look nice. All right, let's go. The Jammer cold air intake for my truck, well, it looks like for any truck, is $399.95 if you go directly through Edge products. At the end of the day, it's a cold air intake. The reason they can call it a cold air intake is the air filter is not exposed to the engine compartment. Anytime you see one of those, if you're going to upgrade the air intake for your fuel injected or carbureted vehicle, and you find a nifty looking aluminum tube that's powder coated pink and has a red air filter at the end of it that you can see the air filter, run away. That is not a cold air intake. That's a hot air intake. And all those videos you see of guys dyno testing those things on a chassis dyno with the hood open and a fan pointed at the engine compartment, yeah, they'll make power on a chassis dyno, but then when you slam the hood shut of your truck and you sit at a stoplight for about 30 seconds, let the engine heat soak and the air filter heat soak, you're making less power than you had when you had a stock airbox. Okay? That's important. So this one could, in theory, work. We're going to find out. And we're going to find out not by going to a chassis dyno. We're going to put it in the truck and monitor the air inlet temperature. That's the key to life. We have a programmer in there that will tell us the air inlet temperature. And it either gets better with this or it gets worse. And that's how you know whether or not your cold air intake actually works.
There she is, Edge Evolution. This thing came with my truck. I didn't install it, but I found it very useful because it tells you everything. Plugs right into the OBD2 port, and anything the factory ECM knows about the engine, this thing knows. And so it's pretty cool. You can adjust your driving habits based on throttle position, you know, how much throttle you're giving it going up hills, trans temp, load, exhaust gas temperatures, all these things. All we really care about is air inlet temperature right there. Currently 97 degrees. We're going to watch that, and that's going to tell the story of whether our new cold air intake actually brings in cold air.
So if this thing backs up into a Kia, does it make a sound?
Not in this truck. I am all for chassis dynoing an engine. It is a great way to tune a car, to verify the performance of the engine, you know, to get everything out of it you can before you go out and try to have fun with your hot rod. But that doesn't mean you're done. You know, just because you tuned it on a dyno doesn't mean you're done tuning if you're trying to get every last ounce of power. And sadly, in the case of some of these performance tests I've seen on just cold air intakes, some of these guys are fooling themselves. You know, they pop the hood wide open, point a giant fan at the front of the car, which you have to do. If you chassis dyno a car and make pull after pull and you don't have a fan pointing at the radiator, that engine's going to overheat. But the problem is you do this with an open element air filter, and you will see a power gain on a chassis dyno. But unless you're drunk, you don't ever drive around on the street with your hood open.
I haven't seen it. No, really.
Not a lot. So,
and you're also doing what we're just doing is you're sitting at a light waiting, and all that heat is building up under the hood, which is
right.
It doesn't apply to what you're actually going to do with your car once you get it off the dyno.
This one has a chance of working. You know, it does have what I believe to be a less restrictive air filter. It's still enclosed in a box, so it should not be picking up a bunch of hot air from the engine compartment, and we'll find out. This might work. The real question I have is, why didn't my science teacher in high school go,
right?
You're going to use this later, Mike. Like, I learned all this later in life. I was the kid that didn't pay attention in school because
you figure you got a calculator. I don't need to know any of this stuff. I don't need to know volume. I don't need to know dimensions. I don't need to know how much it'll hold. You didn't teach me a damn thing about what I actually needed to know.
Well, no, sadly, he did teach me things I would have used. Math teacher too.
Yeah.
If I had thought for a moment I would be using, geometry later in life, I would have paid more attention. But it never occurred to me I'd be working on car chassis and wanted to know more.
They needed to make it sexier in our schools for us to pay attention.
Bring sexy back to education.
That's it. That's the message today, people.
Yes. That brings sexy back to school, and not obviously not that other sexy where teachers and students eventually go to jail.
Right.
No, make learning sexy again. Make it interesting. Apply it to automobiles. More kids will pay attention. I promise you. I'm seeing air inlet temps of 109 degrees at cruise, and the worst I've seen is 126 sitting at a stoplight. Just look at that. Think of all the money Chevrolet spent designing, testing, manufacturing, quality controlling, and all those other ings they put into this thing. And we're about to replace it with something that cost $399. And we're going to hope that it outperforms this. That is a tall order. It really is. I'm all for modifying stuff, but the factory air inlet system is not easy to outperform. So if this works, I will be surprised. And if it does, I will golf clap Edge Performance Products. I will. All
right, so we're following directions here.
Which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Don't usually do that.
Yeah. I usually like the pictures, they're fancy. So we were taking off, we loosened the clamps on your chair. We've taken off the sensor, so this is easily comes out.
Yes.
This one here, watch, there's a hook in the front that actually holds us into the cab, into that little box in the bottom. Just make sure that wiggles that out. This should just come right out, like so.
Beautiful, beautiful.
We got some bolts to get out. We need to keep those to put the new one in, right?
New stuff on the left. Not so new stuff. This is really interesting. Factory turbinator. Look at that. What do you think that's worth? 10? 20 horsepowers?
I thought you were going to put that in beers.
15 torques? 2.5 beers?
That's worth 5.7 beers.
I mean, this is, wow. Factory turbinator. It's kind of a big deal. The new box, no turbinator. So, I don't know. Uphill battle. We'll see what happens here. I don't know how this is going to play out. It's not looking good for the Edge. All right. Let me open this up so we can examine the old air filter and just see how crappy it was. In case you needed the part number, there it is. I figured out why the kit's $399 and not $398. It came with the T20 Torx bit that you need to remove the mass airflow sensor. So think about it this way. We've saved $20 because we didn't have to, we were going to buy a new air filter anyway.
Yeah.
So we'd save $20 there. Then we saved another $1 right here and gained a tool. It just keeps getting better and better. Here's the instructions for the new Jammer ColdAir Intake kit. They're pretty good, but there is one area that you need to maybe deviate just a little bit of it. And that is with regards to the mass airflow sensor. Now, here's the stock air box. I don't know if you can see this. Matt, you'll have to tell me since you're working the camera. Stock air box sits in the car like this, and the mass airflow sensor was installed like this with the connector facing the fender of the truck. The instructions call for you to reinstall
the connector and the mass airflow sensor with it facing the inside of the truck. When I saw that, I thought, that's weird. But then I thought, that physically cannot work. And the reason it cannot work is the bolt holes are offset from the center line of the hole. When you try to install it this way, the holes don't line up, like not even close. So there's your first giveaway that the instructions are probably universal. Maybe that's how it works on the LMM engine. I don't know. I don't own one. But we're going to be installing it this way, not only so the holes line up, but also so that the element inside is actually facing the air as it comes in, which is key. I think if you put this backwards, this thing's not going to want to run right. So, important safety tip for your engine, for you, for your health. Beyond that, the instructions are pretty damn good. This is probably going to take another 5 minutes, and we're done. All right, new filter. Top cover is done, filter minder's in. Now it's time to install the housing into the truck. So that plastic piece right there on the core support is stopping the new airbox from going in.
Right here.
And I think it's pretty much part of the old airbox, so let's take that out. It should drop right in. In theory.
And it does.
Yeah?
I got 1, 2,
Bolt holes line up?
4. Yeah, I got 4 lined up. Their factory came with 5, but we only need the 4, so we got an extra one.
Bonus parts. Ooh, did it make it all the way down?
I think it did. I hope it did.
That's the worst sound ever, is when you hear it and you know it didn't make it to the bottom.
Didn't hear the chunk of concrete.
Can it be that easy? Can it all be that simple? Yes, yes it can. Oh, that's where that other clamp went. This end.
We didn't have an extra. we had the exact amount we needed.
I'm friends with a lot of mechanics, and they all have these nifty little 14-volt miniature impacts for doing stuff like this. I had one. It was stolen along with my toolbox. Haven't replaced it since. Probably should. Those are done, so we just need to plug in our sensor. And then in theory, we get to go driving again. This is important because anytime you modify your engine in a state where you have to have your truck pass an emissions test, those parts need to be exempted. They need to have a carb number. And this sticker says, this air intake is exempted. I can leave it on my truck. If I have to get an emissions inspected, it can stay on there. The referee looks at that. He knows it's cool. As long as it passes the sniff test, this will pass the visual inspection. So, yeah, that's important when you go to buy parts for your car, especially something late model that you care about and that you are going to have to go have and smog inspected. Look for stuff that has a carb number. Okay, we're on the road. We've got our new ColdAir Intake installed, the jammer. It's carb certified. Installed very easy.
So we were seeing at a light about 126, I think we said.
Yeah, we sat at a light long enough to get to 126 degrees of air inlet temp. And
I think drive time was about 116, 118, somewhere in there.
yeah, I think the best I saw at cruise was 109 or 10. All right, now we're going to sit at a stoplight. This is exactly where those chassis dyno tests that I'm talking about earlier, this is where they all go to hell.
Now we're going to go out. I'm going to put our hood up.
So watch, it's
We're
climbing. We're
gonna
sitting at a
floor it.
stoplight. We went from 109, we're now at 117. Air filter in a box, in the engine compartment, hood down, the heat soak, you know, it's real. That's it, it's not going any higher. It's
No,
sitting at
staying
117.
That's 9 degrees at rest.
Yeah, so far that is cooler than what we saw with the factory stuff.
Yeah.
Now it'll start dropping because we're moving. Got some air going through the radiator. There's 109.
And we're cruising now. We got a couple of lights ahead of us that are, if they stay green, we're okay.
Yeah. We can just get this cop to leave.
I think every cop should do
108.
minimum 15 miles above the speed limit just to keep everybody moving behind them.
Yes.
You know.
And everybody with a Crown Vic or a Dodge Charger, anybody with a cop-looking vehicle, automatically. All right, so we have bested the stock air intake by 1 degree so far. Please don't pull me over.
Well, you're asking for it now.
Well, he's slowing down. I'm still doing the speed limit. 106. All right.
See, I told you I saw 106.
You're right. All right. So we're dropping our air temp.
That's a success.
Yeah. Before when we ran this test, 83 degrees. We've dropped it 3 degrees of air inlet temp. It's working. You know. Now is that margin of improvement large enough for you guys out there? I don't know. 104. All right. We're down 5 degrees. I spent a lot more time to install stuff that did nothing. So, for a half hour to drop the air inlet temp 5 degrees, it is doing something. It is working. Yeah, there's got to be some sort of equation that says 5 degrees is huge.
Yeah, that is significant, as they would say in my class. I remembered that word, and it makes me sound important when I use it. The findings are significant.
And relevant.
And relevant.
You're right here.
Don't give away the nookie for free.
Mm-hmm.
You get charged for it.
Right.
Are you rolling?
We're recording.
Oh. Okay then.
No need to worry. We're not.
Look, she's dancing like nobody's watching.
We're watching.
Totally. Look at that.
Oh, we're watching you, honey.
Yeah, girl.
Get it.
What
do you think she's listening to?
Dude, you see the hands?
Do you think she's listening to J-Lo? And we're driving in J-Lo?
God, I hope so.
That would be fantastic.
If I had it on my phone, I would roll down the window and play for her. Oh, you're naughty. Look at you.
Oh, boy.
Wow.